record the closing statements from Ranking Member McHenry and myself. And I'd like to thank you, Mr. John Ray III.
Chairwoman Waters.
For your presence here today.
Chairwoman Waters, I've not had an opportunity to testify or to question the witness.
I'd like to thank you for your presence.
Chairwoman Waters,
And for the time.
parliamentary inquiry.
Yes.
Are all members entitled to question witnesses?
You are, and if you would like to miss the votes on the floor for everybody.
Hey, it's
just
the
one
chairwoman's
moment.
prerogative to call
Just
a recess.
1 moment, please.
That's your decision, not mine.
Just 1 moment, please. You may go right ahead and have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're certainly welcome, sir.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to talk about Sam Bankman-Fried and this FTX scandal that we have briefly touched on before, but now things are getting very, very, very suspicious. Okay, there was already a whole lot of suspicion surrounding this crypto exchange that has now gone bankrupt, and this guy SBF, who was a crypto billionaire and a large donor to the Democrat Party and the Republicans, which is what we're going to focus on here in this video. But SBF is a crypto billionaire wonder boy who is still alive, despite the fact that you have a ton of crypto billionaires who tend to be just falling dead for whatever reason, kind of mysterious. But, you know, he's still alive, and he has now been arrested. He was arrested in the Bahamas because he's been accused by the United States government of fraud, financial fraud. Okay, a whole bunch of counts of fraud and commingling of funds between another firm that was owned by him and his girlfriend, operated by him and his girlfriend, Alameda Research, in which SBF took customer money and lended it out to Alameda Research, which you can't do, okay, without at least explicitly telling customers that that's what you're doing with their funds. And they experienced an insolvency crisis as thousands of customers lost access to their funds, okay, because there was a liquidity crisis. Customers could not withdraw funds from the platform, okay, which is a problem. That's a big problem. Now, all of this happened kind of at the same time. It kind of snowballed, starting on November 2nd, when CoinDesk published a report on the sketchy activities that were happening between Alameda Research and FTX. Now, after that, Binance, which is another large cryptocurrency exchange, announced that they was dumping their FTT tokens, which is the token of FTX. Now, this caused a run on the banks at FTX. Then Binance announces that, hey, we're going to buy FTX. We're going to save FTX from collapsing. And then they announced a few days later that, you know what, we was all capped, right? We're not going to do that. And then FTX files bankruptcy. Okay, so that's long story short what happened. And now this guy, who also is a donor to the Democrat Party, a big donor to the Democrat Party, and other politicians as well too, we're going to get into that, he's been arrested. And I want to go ahead and play this video so that you guys can get a better understanding of the charges that he faces, because I think this guy is actually going to do some time in prison. Take a look.
Is that the Department of Justice, coming from the Southern District in New York, that's the Manhattan prosecutors, they have filed an 8-count complaint against Sam Bankman-Fried, who has been arrested as of yesterday evening in the Bahamas, and he is being held currently on these particular charges. This is the indictment that came down from a grand jury, a federal grand jury: conspiracy to commit wire fraud, wire fraud against customers, conspiracy to commit wire fraud against also lenders, wire fraud against lenders, conspiracy to commit commodities fraud, also conspiracy to commit securities fraud, conspiracy to commit money laundering, as well as conspiracy against the United States by way of violation of campaign finance laws. So that is what the Department of Justice is saying. That comes in connection with a complaint that we saw earlier filed by the SEC, alleging violations of securities laws, U.S. securities laws, and also a complaint coming down from the CFTC. Now, we have been listening to FTX's CEO, current CEO, John J. Ray, testifying before Congress. He's testifying before the House Financial Financial Services Committee, where Sam Bankman-Fried had been also scheduled to testify, but of course now is not given the arrest. What John J. Ray has said so far, I just want to summarize some of the highlights here. He was asked about whether there was any distinction between FTX's various entities. He said no, there was no distinction virtually at all between FTX and Alameda, that the executives had free rein to have money flowing back and forth between those companies without any oversight. He also talked about how much money so far has been recovered for the victims of this alleged fraud. He said approximately $1 billion at this point has been secured in cold storage wallets. He also said that he was asked to elaborate why this fraud, he has said in the past, is worse than Enron, a bankruptcy that Ray also oversaw. He said that the fact that there was no record keeping whatsoever by FTX and its related entities was very problematic. It is making it really difficult for them to figure out exactly where the money flowed and exactly what happened. He said that invoices and expenses were communicated by employees through Slack. He said the company was using QuickBooks for a multi-billion-dollar company. He said that's nice, but not for a multi-billion-dollar company. Also, he had been asked whether he was cooperating with, whether FTX's current leadership is cooperating with U.S. authorities and regulators. He said, absolutely, yes, we are in cooperation and we will continue to do so.
Yeah, so this guy stole billions of dollars, right, from his customers, okay? Billions, okay? He was running a Ponzi scheme. Now, he's going to try to play dumb, okay? He's going to try to play the defense of, well, I just didn't know, because technically in the United States, it's not illegal to be a bad CEO, okay? I mean, he was doing accounting with QuickBooks, right? Clearly not a good CEO. That's not illegal. And he's also claiming anti-Semitism as well, too, right? He's blaming anti-Semitism, right? In his letter that he was going to read before Congress, okay? He was scheduled to testify before Congress. We're going to talk about that because this is where it gets really sketchy. He blamed anti-Semitism, playing the victim card here. So he's going to play the victim card, and then he's also basically going to say that, well, I didn't know that I was actually committing a crime. However, I don't think that's going to work, and the reason why is because his company did not clearly communicate what FTX was doing with the customer funds and whether or not they were actually available. I do believe he misled customers to believe that the funds were available when they actually were not available, which again is fraud. And we've seen people like Bernie Madoff get over 100 years for committing fraud. In his case, it was $65 billion worth of fraud. We've had some other characters who have gotten, hard time, 40, 50, 60 years for these types of Ponzi schemes, for these types of fraudulent schemes in which these con artists have stolen billions of dollars from their customers. So I think this dude is going to do hard time. I really do. But you know who's trying to get out of any criticism whatsoever or having people question them about potentially giving back some of that money? The politicians, who also, in my opinion, stole the money because they got campaign donations from Sam Bankman-Fried. More specifically, Democrats got huge donations. But let's be honest here, both parties, at least according to Sam Bankman-Fried, got donations from him. More specifically, Republicans in the primaries, because Sam Bankman-Fried hates Trump. So, the establishment Republicans got their check because it's a uniparty. And Sam Bankman-Fried ultimately was not just a supporter of the Democrats, he was a supporter of the uniparty.
I donated to both parties. I donated about the same amount to both parties this year. That was not generally known because despite Citizens United being literally the highest profile Supreme Court case of the decade and the thing everyone talks about when they talk about campaign finance, for some reason, in practice, no one can possibly fathom the idea that someone in practice actually gave dark. So, I don't know, all my Republican donations were dark. If you won't see them. And the reason was not for regulatory reasons. It's because reporters freak the out if you donate to a Republican. They're all super liberal and didn't want to have that fight. So I just made all the Republican ones dark. But I was, second or third biggest Republican donor this year as well. But also, it's all for the primaries. They don't give anything in general elections. They don't give a shit about general elections. It's not what matters. Like, it's the primaries where you have good candidates against bad candidates.
Yeah, good candidates versus bad candidates. That's like a Mitch McConnell talking point. But again, overwhelmingly, this guy definitely donated to Democrats. He donated to some Republicans. And what is very curious here is that this guy was arrested literally a day before he was scheduled to testify in Congress about the FTX scandal. A testimony that could have put a spotlight on the fact that the politicians, got their campaigns funded with stolen money. Now, if this guy would have said that in Congress, I think that, again, that puts a spotlight on the politicians and the fact that, again, they got funded with stolen money. And what is the natural thing to do when you get your money stolen? Well, the natural thing to do is to ask for it back and say, hey, that money was stolen. Are you going to give it back? And we know the politicians don't want to give it back because Joe Biden is telling us that he doesn't want to give it back. Take a look.
The former FTX, Bankman-Fried, was arrested in the Bahamas. The president received campaign donations from him. Many prominent Democrats did, some Republicans did as well. Will the president return that donation? Does he call on all politicians who got campaign donations that may have come from customer money to return those funds?
So look, I'm covered here by the Hatch Act, limited on what I can say, and anything that's connected to political contributions from here, I would have to refer you to the DNC.
I'm asking the president's opinion, though. Does he want those people who...
No, you asked me two questions. You asked me about will he return the donations, and then you asked me about his opinion. I'm answering the first part, which is I'm covered by the Hatch Act from here. I'm limited on what I can say, and I just can't talk to political contributions or anything related to that. I cannot speak about it from here.
And his opinion, though?
I just cannot speak to this from here. Even his opinion, even his thoughts about the contributions, donations, I cannot speak about that from here.
And then are you covered by the Hatch Act?
I am covered by the Hatch Act, which I'm happy to say over and over again because we believe in the rule of law here.
Yeah, says the party that literally wanted to overthrow the Supreme Court. We believe in the rule of law, right? No, you just believe in not answering questions that are inconvenient, okay? Because the Biden administration, the Democrats are not giving that money back, okay? They're not giving the money back, and that is really what's going on here, okay? It is not a coincidence that this guy was arrested literally a day before he was scheduled to show up in Congress to testify about the FTX collapse. It is clear that Democrats don't want this guy talking, right? They don't want to hear nothing from this guy, okay? It took them a while to decide whether or not they actually was going to arrest him, okay? Apparently, he didn't buy a big enough insurance policy with his political donations. This collapse and crime committed by this guy was too much for the Democrats to ignore, to give him a pass on, because, usually they'll let you, get a pass, like, how they gave a pass to a lot of these financial corporations that contributed to the 2008 financial crisis, right? They got a bailout. Yeah, usually that's what happens. But this guy apparently doesn't qualify for a bailout. And he also does not qualify to not be arrested. In fact, he's become a political liability because he knows too much, which is why they weren't going to let him testify. Again, he might spill the beans. He'll tell the American people that all these politicians got funded with stolen funds, in which at that point they would demand the money back, and the politicians would be stuck between a rock and a hard place. Not going to look good for all these politicians that received this money that we all know is stolen now, and they're not going to give it back, right? Not a good look. What's even worse is if this sparks questions about why in the world do we have a system that allows politicians to be bought and sold by individuals like this in exchange for influence in our politics. That's actually the bigger question. That's what they really want to avoid, which is why I believe this guy's going to do hard time. He is a political liability. He knows too much. They're locking this guy up for a long time, right? That's what they're going to do. He's basically in an Epstein situation. I'm just saying, if I was him, I would be very concerned. I would be extremely concerned. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.